Victor Davis Hanson on Donald Trump. Quote, the media, the punditocracy, the universities, the political establishment, Wall Street, the big banks, the mega wealthy, even the Koch brothers and Hank Paulson, former head of Goldman Sachs, can't stand Trump. He should be down by 20 points, but he's not. Why isn't he?
Well, he represents an anger at the much overused word, elites. Elites are people who, not just by money, but basically have a utopian vision that they feel that does not apply to themselves, and they have the money, culture, and influence to navigate around the ramifications of their own ideology. So what do I mean by that? Mark Zuckerberg lectures all of us about how a wall is bad, and then he builds a wall or tries to build a Maginot Line around his own home. Or we're told just how terrible charter schools are, and you can't do that, and Barack Obama puts his kids in Sidwell Friends. Or Al Gore says, you know what, the planet is heating up, carbon is the problem, but I'm going to sell my cable channel to Qatar and their fossil fuel fortunes, and I'm going to try to beat the capital gains tax in a way that John Kerry moved his yacht to Rhode Island to avoid the high taxes he wants on everybody else. And it became so an aggregate so large that people got sick of them. And so Donald Trump is Hillary Clinton's worst nightmare. She's Barack Obama's nemesis, and he's a vampire's mirror for the Republican establishment. They look in him and they see them. They don't even see them as if they're nothing, and that's because the Republicans of all people allowed the borders to stay open. They could have stopped the $20 trillion in the national debt. They did a noble job trying to stop Obamacare, but failed. And when a Republican legislator retires in Washington, there's no difference between his Democratic counterpart and his eagerness to get rich by virtue of his past office. The issue is not Trump or Hillary. It's $20 trillion in debt, cultural and social and racial division, a healthcare system that doesn't work, a failed foreign policy, and an entitlement industry that's not sustainable. And those problems have self-correcting mechanisms called chaos. And we're either going to have chaos or somebody's going to preempt them and do it. And I will say that people are very naive about their past. If I were to ask a progressive, who was the best president of the 20th century, they would tell me Woodrow Wilson, maybe FDR. And I'm thinking, who was the most racist president that was elected in the 20th century? Woodrow Wilson. He stopped all integration. He wouldn't integrate we could have had the armed forces integrated 30 years earlier. His Versailles Treaty, what he did at Versailles, guaranteed a war in 20 years. His idea of trying to undermine and destroy the Constitution through progressive was a disaster. And yet, we not only recovered from him, but now people look back very nostalgically and say he was a hero. So there's a clear choice. There's no such thing as they're both the same. Neutrality, whether people want to admit it or not, being neutral is not being neutral. It's like a vegetarian tiger. It doesn't exist. You either 51% or 49. This is a Manichaean election, and you don't say Trump is boorish, he's got orange hair, he's got that fake tan, and Hillary has got health problems. You say she has a group of advisors, and she has a tradition, and she has a political party. She's an imperfect vessel. He has people around him that represent a more conservative approach. He's an imperfect vessel, but I'm going to vote for which is more conservative or which is more progressive. And there's a clear choice. When I meet people here at Hoover or National Review, where I write, or any other venue, the people who are willing to vote for Trump, usually he was not their first candidate, and they're very shy about it. They don't want to admit it. They're sort of like the invasion of the body snatchers. You really don't know they've been snatched yet. They're just quiet, or they're in the closet. The people who are virulently anti-Trump, it's almost as if they're a virtue monger. They just want to tell everybody how virtuous they are. Not in my name would I ever vote. So I have a feeling that
there's a hidden vote.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's somewhat of a hidden vote. The other thing is that a lot of the editorialization and the media anger at Trump is predicated on blowing him out. If he is blown out by 6 to 8 points, then the Republican establishment who opposed him says, I warned you. He is a disastrous for the Republican Party. He did to you what Goldwater did, and I'm the pundit, the predicate. There's a lot of people who are predicated in a Trump blowout. And so, again, ad nauseum, he's terrible, he's Hitler, he's Stalin. One of the weirdest things is the so-called Republican establishment, Democratic establishment, the Washington, D.C., sophisticated, nuanced people. And when you read what they write in very sophisticated historical nuances, they say he's Mussolini, he's Hitler, he's Stalin, he's a brown shirt, he's a black shirt. It's get a life, you know what I mean?